Who back when?
Welcome to Who Back When, a Doctor Who podcast. This is the Hartnell Retrospective, and I'm JD.
Yes, you are.
And joining me today is Pumpkin.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I remember the old days I used to do a podcast or something.
I have missed you like crazy. Where have you been?
Well, I've been busy working on the interior of the TARDIS for the new Capaldi series.
Oh,
because
nice.
the new Capaldi series will be having a new interior.
Oh, is that actually true?
No.
Is any of that actually true?
Yes.
Oh, really? New interior?
New interior with super new Randalls.
Oh, I haven't looked at the trailer that meticulously.
Yep, new Randalls, always good. So
Okay.
I'm back for our Hartnell retrospective, where we take a look at William Hartnell, the First Doctor, with maybe just a little bit of an aside into William Russell and Richard Hartnell.
I'm very curious. Interesting. Okay.
And we'll come to those later on.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may have heard I'm assuming that you've heard our Christopher Eccleston retrospective, and this is going to be very much along the same lines. We have a bunch of categories. We're going to go through them, we're going to list our top fives, our bottom fives, and we're going to rank stuff, basically.
So, let's start off and take a look at the most important thing in a Doctor Who series, the actual stories.
So the top 5 serials, right? That's what we're doing.
Yeah, with one exception.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Top 5 serials with bonus. You can't rank the top 5 without having an Unearthly Child Part 1 in there. And you probably shouldn't. And you should probably ignore an Unearthly Child Part 1 and put it in an entire category of its own.
Oh, interesting. Which is how it originally was meant to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you take an Unearthly Child as a story, it probably wouldn't rank in my top 5. Parts 2, 3 and 4 are not brilliant when it compared to Part 1, but Part 1 contains so many iconic moments, so many firsts, in fact the first of everything that you see in Doctor Who,
Sure.
that I have ranked An Unearthly Child Part 1 as my 0th favourite episode. It's above all of them. Because
that's a lovely thing to do.
without that one single episode, we wouldn't be here. And we'd be doing a Blake 7 podcast instead. which only has 52 episodes, so it would have been probably finished by now.
Oh my god. Can you imagine that? Starting a podcast project that actually has a finite duration. Anyway, okay, that's cool. I hadn't considered that at all. That's a lovely thing to do and a lovely thing to say. Parts 2, 3, and 4 of what is now commonly known as An Unearthly Child, what is that actually called? Is that like 10 million BC or something like that?
It's actually, I think it's 10,000 BC.
10,000?
Either 10,000 or 100,000 BC. It's certainly not the number you would expect it to be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I say, yeah, exactly. Maybe 10 million BC is nowhere near the number that you would expect, but it seems much closer than 10,000 anyway.
The Cave of Skulls, all of that. There's lots of different episode names for parts 2, 3, and 4. And the only real episode title you can give them are, the individual titles that they had.
Sure, but 2, 3, and 4 very clearly are one set story.
They are, but, when these were all written, An Unearthly Child was on its own. Then you had 2, 3, and 4, but they were all given the same production code. They were all given the production code of A, although parts 2, 3, and 4 are completely and utterly different. They are a completely different story.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people saw the first episode as, just sort of linking into how the universe worked. Mm-hmm. But standing alone as an episode is probably the best way to rank it.
Okay. I have to admit, I completely forgot about An Unearthly Child. Well, didn't forget about it, but I definitely neglected it in my top list. So I will say, I don't want to copy you too much, but I will say I will give honourable mention to An Unearthly Child, just because that's the very origin of this beautiful show that we are just revering here. But, okay, number 5. Do you want to say it first?
The War Machines.
Interesting. Mine is The Time Meddler.
Okay. Number 4. And then we'll have the arguments about them at the end, I think.
Okay, alright. Oh, I really should have done War Machines. Okay, fine. Number 4, The Space Museum.
Number 4, The Edge of Destruction.
How dare you, goddammit! Why would you put the Edge of goddamn Discretion on there? Oh.
I don't know, but we can ask one of our listeners very shortly about why they've named that their favourite episode.
Yes, that's very true. Okay, number 3.
The Time Meddler.
Oh, The Keys of Marinus for me. Number 2.
The Keys of Marinus.
Number 2 for me is The Dalek Invasion of Earth.
number 1. What is your first and your most favourite Doctor Who episode from William Hartnell?
It's a little bit of an odd one because it's not one that we can properly watch, but it is The Daleks' Master Plan.
And mine is also a Daleks. It is the Dalek invasion of Earth. You obviously put as number 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 of our episodes...
We do have some correlation,
which is Dalek's invasion of Earth, Key to Marinus, and Time Meddler.
Yeah. Before
we do our little conversation about why we agree on those 3, and we totally disagree about Edge of Destruction.
Yes, we do.
War Machine, Space Museum, and what was the other one we disagreed on?
Dalek's Master Plan was mine.
And Master Plan, okay. Let us go to our 2 listeners who sent in some intros for our retrospectives.
Yes, starting off with... also a heartwarming welcome back to the show. This one comes from Gina Guerrero.
Hello, Gina. And I know that you sent this in, and I'm going to read your comment on your favourite episode in its entirety. Because I actually don't trust Pumpkin to actually get this out without crying.
Yeah, nor should you.
Gina says, when thinking of my favourite episode with the First Doctor, I had to choose The Edge of Destruction. After watching it recently, it is still a batshit crazy episode. However, the actors did their best to sell a story in which the main antagonists are paranoia and a stuck switch. And other favourite episodes of Gina's include The Time Meddler and The Romans, which we didn't mention.
No, we didn't.
But I will agree. I like The Romans. Wouldn't be in my top 5, but I do like The Romans.
Yeah,
Very
that's true. Actually, hang on. Did we... I mean, okay, I guess you could maybe consider The Time Meddler to be...
Time Meddler
pseudo-historical?
It's a pseudo-historical.
Because you got another Time Lord in there. We don't have any historicals in our list.
Nope.
Interesting. Okay. Well, fine, Gina. I absolutely disagree with you about the Edge of Destruction. In case anyone wonders why, please re-listen to our review of The Edge of Destruction. That's Destruction. Time Meddler, great. Romans, fantastic. Yes. Shall we have a look at what our other listener sent in?
Absolutely. And this comes in from Stever, SGamer82.
Steven.
Now, his episode wasn't on my list, but we will be discussing it shortly, so over to you, Ponkin.
I couldn't agree more. Steven says, favourite episode, The Daleks' Master Plan, and he explains this. I confess to a lot of bias on this one. The Daleks' Master Plan has its flaws, not least of which being Terry Nation's apparent inability to differentiate between galaxies and solar systems, and an entire set of characters serving absolutely no purpose.
Nation!
He goes on, I am, however, an utter sucker for epic-scale storylines, and, as the longest Doctor Who serial spanning nearly half a dozen worlds and giving us the shock of our first companion deaths, this story fits the bill without question.
If I had had 6, the 6th one would have been Dalek's Master Plan.
Yeah?
You know, trying to fit in my 5 favourite Hartnells was very, very difficult.
Agreed.
Dalek's Master Plan is a true epic. It is an epic in the way that only one other Doctor Who story ever will be, which was Trial of a Time Lord. And the comparison between the two of them is like night and day in the grounds that Dalek's Master Plan is actually good.
Yeah, Dalek's Master Plan is fantastic, and it's also, with the sole exception of the Christmas bonus episode, the little Christmas special in the middle there.
Oh, yeah.
Feast of Stephen. The Dalek's Master Plan is what the chase should have been. It's got this grand scale, just like SGamer82 says, it's got this grand scale storytelling, this massive arch, and it visits so many different places. In every episode, you get to see at least one new planet and or era, and it's just fantastically inventive in that sense.
So, on our top 5,
yeah,
we had 3 episodes that we totally agreed on. And I think let's quickly run through why we like those.
Okay.
I think, you know, the first one was Dalek Invasion of Earth, which I have at number 1 and you have at number 2.
I struggled for a long time. My only real problem, sorry to cut you off there, was deciding which one of the 2 Dalek stories I was going to put as number 1 and which is number 2.
Absolutely. The Dalek Invasion of Earth, though, is, for me, edges out Dalek's Master Plan, because while Master Plan has Catriana's and Sarah Kingdom's deaths, the Dalek Invasion of Earth not only has one of my favourite lines in Doctor Who, which we'll come on to later.
Okay.
It has the departure of Susan.
Yes, that's true. Oh, bloody hell, I made the wrong choice, didn't I?
It has the departure of Susan. It has the Robo-Men, and without the Robo-Men, we wouldn't have probably have had a lot of things that have come along after that.
That's very true. And it's also the kind of sci-fi element that may have been hugely influential on other sci-fi franchises.
Absolutely. If you look at the flying saucer of the Dalek spaceship, and then if you have a look at the sort of epic apocalyptic Earth that they were on, Surrey, but the epic apocalyptic London and Surrey that they were in, or Bedfordshire, sorry, it was.
You sure it wasn't Hertfordshire?
It's Hertfordshire, wasn't it?
It's one of those two. I can't remember. I genuinely cannot remember.
I don't think the people that did it could, because it was filmed in a quarry. And you have the Daleks going over the bridge, which is the single most seminal iconic image.
Yeah, it's the seminal Dalek Kodak moment.
Exactly. You don't get anything similar to that until you get the Cybermen one in the Patrick Troughton era and the invasion, with them coming down the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral. They are images which, at the time, were incredibly powerful. So that's why, my love of Dalek Invasion of Earth. And it was one of the very few, going back to the days of VHS, it was one of the very few early Hartnells that I saw at the start. I think it was probably the third of the early Hartnells. The first ones I saw were Unearthly Child and Daleks. The Dalek Invasion of Earth was just so much more of a very good story, I thought, than the Daleks. And then, of course, it was made into a Peter Cushing film.
Well, I was going to say, clearly it's the kind of story that's met with public acclaim, because otherwise they wouldn't have turned it into a Technicolor feature. Am I allowed to switch the places here? Because now I kind of want to say that Dalek Invasion of Earth, with all the post-apocalyptic dark energy that it holds, is actually slightly more atmospheric than Dalek's Master Plan. Dalek's Master Plan still... It's not necessarily a better sci-fi story, but it's more of a sci-fi story. It has more sci-fi concepts, whereas Dalek's Invasion of Earth it's a war story.
That's true, but you're not allowed to swap, so live and die by your selections.
Fair enough.
So, we then go on to Keys of Marinus, which we both liked.
Yes, Keys of Marinus is fantastic. When Who Back When got to Keys of Marinus and we reviewed it, I think even in the review itself, both Flapjack and I agree, holy crap, Terry Nation, he's crafted this magnificent story. He wrote Keys of Marinus as well, right?
Yeah, Marinus is a good story. Marinus, I'm a real sucker for these sort of stories where they have to go off and get little bits of things and to get the actual Keys of Marinus and the Keys of the Conscience.
And also different locations again.
Different locations, good acting, good guest stars. It gave us a trope in Vord hiding. Which we've used in so many other things since then. Yeah,
in pretty much every episode since then.
We've managed to use Vord hiding in audiobooks, which I didn't think was even possible, and yet we have.
Yes, we have.
Marinus has some of my favourite Hartnell line fluffs as well, so...
I think I may have one of those in an upcoming category. We'll see.
Yes. But ultimately, Marinus is a science fiction story.
Yeah.
But it's a science fiction story with a lot of other genres inside it. You've got the kidnapping and escape. You've got the trial.
Yeah.
You've got man-eating plants. And you've got, whether the conscience of Marinus was actually a good thing or not.
Yeah, exactly. There is that moral dilemma. And not just that. I mean, if you set aside a well-written story, you set aside the interesting plot and the good acting and all that stuff, production values, just look at the production values. The episode or the serial is beautiful. From the very beginning, where we get that kind of dodgy-looking miniature of the TARDIS that is way too big for the island that it is on, and then to the very last shot of the serial where we see the exact same footage but in reverse. Thank you, by the way, one of our listeners pointed that out. I had no idea. From start to finish, this serial is beautiful. And they put so much effort and probably a ton of money into crafting, like, this, the palatial atmosphere, the icy mountain, the weird caves, the cottage, and all that stuff. It's awesome.
One of the things that we always thought was that the Vord would come back, but they never did. It looked like that they were being designed to return at some point.
Yeah.
And they sadly never did.
Regardless, very interesting creatures.
Absolutely. And, it was... They had an audiobook, and that was pretty much it. They never returned even an audio form apart from one single audiobook.
I desperately want to listen to that. Do you know what it's called?
Domain of the Void.
Oh.
It's an early adventures, and it's narrated by William Russell and Carol Ann Ford. The third one that we agreed on this is The Time Meddler.
Yeah.
Well...
Like, where do you start?
A second TARDIS, a second Time Lord.
Yeah.
The very first studio historical in Doctor Who. It was, in a way, a reboot of what was Doctor Who.
Okay.
Previously, you had Ian, Barbara, and Girl.
Yeah, and now you have another girl, another male companion.
Yes, but you had another girl, another male companion, but it was a very, very different dynamic in that...
Yeah, it was younger.
It was younger, and it was very much that it was starting to be more about the Doctor.
Yeah.
Before then, you had Ian and Barbara were the main characters in this. The Doctor was this almost Deus Ex Machina that got them in and out of trouble.
Sure.
And Ian and Barbara were the people who drove the story along.
Okay.
But now you had Stephen and whichever girl he was with at the time, either Vicky or Dodo, they were much more starting to take a back seat, and it was a story about the Doctor and the misadventures he happened to get his companions into.
Sure, I can see that. I can see that with that serial, but there are episodes where the Doctor takes a backseat as well. There are definitely episodes that are more companion-driven. You have the War Machines on your list. The War Machines is very companion-driven.
I would actually say the War Machines isn't. The War Machines is only companion-driven because it was introducing new companions. And that's always been in Doctor Who.
Yeah, but they do tons of stuff while the Doctor goes and has a schwitz with what's-his-face.
But that is because they are trying to bring those on as the new Ian and Barbara. They're trying to bring those on as a new companion team.
Yes, but in The Time Meddler, isn't that actually Stephen's first proper adventure?
It is Stephen's first proper adventure. And
so that's also an episode where they're trying to bring in a new companion.
Yeah, but he doesn't do anything in it. Not compared to, I would say, Savages, where he leaves. He does a lot more in Savages. He does a hell of a lot more in Celestial Toymaker.
Oh god. Well, yeah, next list.
Yeah. So, Time Meddler, I think we agree. Peter Butterworth.
The monk. He's amazing.
There is not enough monkery, I think, in Doctor Who. And oddly enough, one of my favourite lines will be later.
And also, I think, this is not a category in this retrospective, but definitely one of my favourite lines ever uttered on Who Back When, not in Doctor Who, is more monkery, less schmonkery by the Rawmeister.
So, we now have 4 episodes where we don't agree.
Yeah.
Or at least we don't quite agree to the same level. So I think we'll take the easy one first, which is Dalek's Master Plan.
Okay, shoot.
It wasn't on my first 5 and was obviously your number 1. It's very good. I would say that it can't be in my top 5 because of Feast of Stephen. I have to take, if I'm taking Dalek's Master Plan, and I'm going to break this rule later on, but if I'm taking Dalek's Master Plan, I'm trying to take it as an entire story. Mm-hmm. That just takes you out of the story completely. And it is shit. There's no point in that episode being there. If that episode was removed, you wouldn't notice any difference at all.
Yeah, true. But that's also how it was released. I mean, The Feast of Stephen was recorded as just a Christmas special, and it's included in this massive epic serial just because it was produced at the same time and originally it aired alongside the other episodes. But the idea at the time was we're going to sell this to the US market as well, and they were not going to include the Feast of Stephen. Narratively speaking, it wasn't part of the Dalek's Master Plan.
This is a good thing about Dalek's Master Plan. It contains so much empty space, and I mean this in a good way, where the audiobooks were able to drop in so many adventures. Jean Marsh and Peter Purvis have done a lot of audiobooks which are contained inside Dalek's Master Plan. Because they have to be, because that's the only time Sarah Kingdom exists.
Wait, hang on, so all the Sarah Kingdom stories take place during the same time?
During Dalek's Master Plan, yeah.
Really? There are this is Sarah Kingdom in her the early days of her career. Turning herself into total badass.
There are a couple, and there's actually, I think, I might be wrong, one with Brett Byron, as well as a sort of how he became what he is in it.
They could totally do like a brother-sister kind of thing. Like a prequel.
Yeah, I think there is one where it was her on her own, but all the rest of them have taken place inside Dalek's master plan, with one exception, which was, get this right, the 5 companions, which is 5 completely or almost random companions get time scooped out of their lives, and it was, let's get this right, Chatterton. Yes.
Chesterfield.
Chesterfield Sofa. Chesterton, Stephen Taylor, Sarah Kingdom, Polly, and Nyssa.
Nyssa?
Yeah, so you have 3 from the first Doctor, in fact 4 from the first Doctor, and then Nyssa, which is...
Wait, hang on, who is Nyssa?
Peter Davison's companion.
Peter Davison's companion. That's really weird. Why? Is it just because, the actress happened to be available?
No, it's actually a 5th Doctor audiobook.
Oh, right. Oh, that's pretty cool, though.
That's another Sarah Kingdom one, but,
Fine.
Jean Marsh has been in Doctor Who a lot. She's very good. And having
a lot.
also...
She's in The Crusade.
She's in The Crusade, she's in Dalek's Master Plan, and she's in Battlefield.
Battlefield, yeah, that's the one. I haven't seen that yet.
So that was... and I love it, so it fully well deserves to be up there. War Machines, I think, is the next one to discuss. Yeah,
War Machines I probably would have put at my number 6. War Machines is a great one. Yet another attempt to replace the Daleks, but in a much cleverer way. You have the introduction of an AI, you have allusions to fascism, and you have mind control, and you have a really, really strong pair of companions. Ben and Polly are amazing in it. And also, wait, hang on, let's add another bonus to this. It's the episode or the serial in which Dodo fucking leaves the show. Finally.
She limps off the show.
She limps off the show. Even though, admittedly, the way that she leaves the show is just appalling. I mean, from the production side of things. But at least we got rid of her.
It's appalling from the production side of things, but it fitted her character so much in that she just vanished and no one cared about her.
Fair enough. Okay.
So what was your last one that wasn't on my list?
Space Museum?
Space Museum. Yeah.
You don't like it?
I have a real problem with Space Museum.
Why? What's your problem?
Episode 1, I would happily give a high 4 to. I think it is a brilliant bit of plotting. It is a setup unlike no other in Doctor Who at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It has logical consistency.
Yeah. More or less. More or less.
Within the context of 1960s science fiction.
Yes, exactly. It is surprisingly logical.
And, to be honest, it is what Doctor Who should be. It's a sideways in time story.
Yeah.
Then it is ruined.
By?
Episode 2 onwards. Because...
Is that because of the Zerons? Is that because of the morons? Is that because of the...
you have the morons who... Don't they begin episode 2 with 15 minutes of exposition about political systems?
Possibly.
Yes,
I don't know. Wasn't the first half of the Fellowship of the Ring pretty much the same? But people kind of like the trilogy. Yeah, I'm reaching, but still.
Yeah, reaching a lot on that one. The problem you have with Space Museum is that it is nowhere near as good an episode as it should have been. That's the problem with it. The Space Museum is such a great idea. The sideways in time, the arriving before you arrive plotline is great. And then you have Dimensions of Time, Search and Final Phase, which just go and ruin it. Because who in their right minds has Vicky as the person who leads a rebellion?
Yeah, she's Shea Vicky. She's Che Guevara-ing all over the place. It's awesome. Okay, here's the thing.
Was it because Barbara wasn't free for those 2 minutes it would have taken to get her somewhere else to be the rebellion leader?
Hang on. Time out. I want to find out what I gave the Space Museum back in the day.
You gave it an underwhelming 3.3.
So I gave it a 3.3 at the time. That's not a great score. But now, in retrospect, I have to say I'm still incredibly impressed by the fact that finally, and I'm sure I said this in the review that we did of the Space Museum, that finally we had the introduction of time as a collaborative part of the narrative. It was an actual plot driver.
Correct.
9 out of 10 Doctor Who episodes are basically, time is just the excuse. Time isn't the driver, and here it's a proper MacGuffin.
I cannot disagree with you at all. You're talking about episode 1 again, right?
Sure.
Limit your good things about episode 2. Go on. Tell me one thing about episode 2 which you will rave about when you get to, like, Peter Davison's era.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, hang on. I don't remember exactly what happens in 1, 2, 3, and 4, but is this not also the episode where William Hartnell clearly is having a great time? Like, he is just thoroughly enjoying this story. He hides in a Dalek, he's smiling, he's jumping around.
Agreed.
His performance is just this wonderfully charming aspect of the Space Museum. On top of that, you have Ian. God damn it. He is just Steven Seagaling all over the place. He's a total badass. Like, physically speaking, he's just the alpha, while the Doctor finally proves that he's super clever by, like, manipulating the weird brain-reading telepathy, whatever, blah, blah, the brain espionage machine.
No, I've had enough of your drivel now.
And I will happily forget the fact that Vicky failed to smoke Tor's dong. I will happily forget the fact that she somehow, despite being a complete nincompoop, managed to hack a weird security device, which, as I recall, was guarded by some other security device. Like, there are so many stupid things going on in this story, but it's incredibly enjoyable and incredibly rewatchable.
How, in your words, how can you defend anything that someone copied and pasted the ending of Edge of Destruction into the ending of Space Museum, right? Because it was a broken spring again.
You know what? I forgot about that. I forgot about that.
Which sugs us onto the Edge of Destruction. Which was on my list, and it's probably on your other list.
It's on my other list, yeah.
So this is a good sug between the two.
I totally forgot about the ending of Space Museum, you're right. It's the... Have you ever walked into a room and then the light takes a while to switch on? Shut up, Doctor. Why did you... Oh, god damn it. Why did I put Space Museum on this list? Okay, fine. Fine.
I listened to your review of Edge of Destruction to the point where I got to the point of actually writing in about your review of Edge of Destruction before I was on the podcast. And I love it. I think it's a great episode.
Okay.
It is so different. It's Twilight Zone. It's Twilight Zone-esque. You have the characters acting strangely, but with logical consistency. You have... Shush. You have people trying to stab people, which did not happen to main characters in 1960s children TV.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
It's a good episode. I think... No, I'm not even discussing this.
Fine.
You're wrong and I'm right. So let's move on to the bottom 5 serials, because I have a feeling this argument's going to come back in a second.
I think so.
So that will skew on to our bottom 5 serials.
Mm-hmm.
Our 5th least favourite.
Oh, unequivocally, with zero doubt whatsoever. Very clearly, the memorable Galaxy 4.
The Planet of Giants.
Alright, 4th worst.
The Space Museum, Episode 2 onwards.
The Rescue.
3rd worst, from the end of the run, The Gunfighters.
The Edge of Destruction.
And it wasn't your worst episode, so this is probably a good thing.
Nope.
Your 2nd worst episode.
The Web Planet, aka Bleep Bleep.
I have a feeling your bottom 1 and 2 are the reverse of my 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as my 2nd worst episode is The Celestial Toymaker.
Yep. That is definitely the absolute worst episode so far, or serial so far, in my opinion.
And my worst is blatantly Insect Movement by Rosalind de Winter. So, okay, so we have 2 that we agree on now.
Yeah. Wow, only 2. That's actually... okay, alright, interesting. Go for it.
Okay, so I think we probably won't mention the Space Museum again. I think we've done that one to what the reasons why I dislike it. Mm-hmm. So, to counter that, before we move on to the 2 we agree on, why don't you like Edge of Destruction?
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. So, Edge of Destruction, aka Edge of Discretion, It's not as bad as when we first reviewed it. It's correct me if I'm wrong, it's the third serial, right?
Correct, it's after the Daleks.
Yeah, after the Daleks. Who Back When was in its infancy, and it followed this magnificent serial, The Daleks, the introduction of the Daleks. And by comparison, unfortunately, I was biased and I gave The Edge of Destruction, aka The Edge of Discretion, an undeservedly low mark. That being said, it's a steaming pile of garbage. It has so much potential, but that's really the problem. You're right, it is a Twilight Zone-esque story, but it's an unfulfilled one, with the worst possible climax, the same terrible climax that I neglected to remember in the Space Museum of the spring that just got stuck. And none of it makes sense. Why are the doors opening and closing? What's the noise that we hear out there? Are we traveling back in time? Are we traveling to the very, very beginning of the universe? We have no idea. The acting is all over the place. I am not a fan of the weird stabbing motions that Susie has with her scissors. It's just shit. It's actual shit. It's as though someone who's high on hormones took way too much acid, locked themselves in a cupboard, opened their eyes and thought that they were watching TV, and then later on they woke up and they just wrote down their experience, and that is The Edge of Discretion. It's terrible. God, I hate it. It's awful. Still, not as bad as The Web Planet or The Celestial Toymaker.
Oh, sorry, I fell asleep there while you were ranting.
Apologies.
Right, so, I've made my case. I've made my case for this story.
Yeah.
And, I have one of the stalwarts of Who Back When, Gina Guerrero.
Yeah.
Agreeing with me. And
yeah, but you know what? Nobody's perfect.
So, apart from those, we have two that we weren't on each other's list. So, I'll start off with Planet of Giants.
Okay.
And Planet of Giants, I think, it had a lot of potential. It's back to your Edge of Destruction thing. It had a lot of potential. It had a lot of great ideas. It was compressed into 3 episodes rather than the 4, which it would have been originally. It had, admittedly, special effects at the time were not brilliant. It just had some illogical inconsistencies. It just wasn't good. Now, I don't hate it. I don't hate it in the way that I loathe the Web Planet. I don't hate it in the way that I think Celestial Toymaker is hideous. I just think it is ruined by a lack of imagination and a lack of potential.
I think production value-wise, I think it's a really good one. I think it's a really interesting one. I don't think it's a great episode. It probably wouldn't have been... It's not in my bottom 5, and it probably wouldn't have been in my bottom 6 either. It's not a great episode, though. But for what it is, I think it's kind of inventive. I think it's interesting, and it kind of plays with that weird emotional dynamic of, yes, we're back home. No, we're so tiny we can't enjoy it, In that sense, not too bad. And it actually, one of our listeners added this to their mini review. I remember reading that out loud. That so far we've only been dealing with the dimension of time, but now, all of a sudden, we add the dimension of space as something that the TARDIS can manipulate, which is in itself kind of interesting.
Yeah, admittedly, that's very good. And I said it's a lack of imagination, not a lack of the writing in it or anything like
Sure.
that. So, Galaxy 4.
Galaxy 4. Oh, all right. Galaxy 4 has Dravin Chiquitas, who are just incredibly uncharismatic. It has the Chumbleys, who are such an incredibly poor attempted substitute for the Daleks. It has Vicky, who is super duper annoying, and it has, I want to say, the Rill, is that what they're called? I think the Rill, yeah. Who are basically just these, they're massive slugs. They're basically Jabba the Hutt, but they don't seem very interesting. The whole story just seems like it's incredibly sexist from the Doctor's point of view. At one point, he actually points at a Dravin vagina and goes, because of that, you're not as good as I am. It's also incredibly superficial in that basically the source of the conflict between these alien races is that the Dravin Chiquitas, they're so female and preoccupied with beauty that they find the Rill to be hideous and therefore must be an alien and are to be destroyed.
I can't disagree with anything. I can't...
So why is it not on your list, man? Why is it not on your list?
It would be number 6.
I feel like it should be on the list.
It should be on my list. I think that it was better when an episode of it didn't exist.
Sure.
That's probably
That didn't improve matters.
And I will I wish to have a callback to one of our listeners.
Okay.
I was laughing quite a lot when I heard this listener mini, because I will now just going to read out Kyle Rath. That's
Kyle.
At Sinister Super Spy.
Super Spy, that's super without any vowels.
And his far more relevant titles than Galaxy 4.
Oh, yes. Oh, I remember this.
Galaxy 4 was not actually ever mentioned in the story.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the story that may or may not take place in Galaxy 4.
So it's our list within a list. It's Kyle Rath's top 5 better titles than Galaxy 4.
Let's hear him.
At number 5, Stepford 3000. At number 4, the one where that planet exploded with some people on it that no one cared about. At number 3, a nice piece of building. At number 2, Aqua Team Chumbly Force. And number 1, shit's about to get real.
Oh, I love that one.
Thank you, Kyle Rath.
Fantastic, Kyle. Thank you.
Okay, so we shall move on to the last two that we disagree on. Mine was the gunfighters.
Yeah.
I hate westerns.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, that's the entire reason, by the way.
All right, fair enough. Personal bias. You know what? I can dig it. The Gunfighters. I don't remember it being very good, and it has that incredibly annoying song. The Ballad of something?
The ballad, I think it's Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah. Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon. It is super annoying, especially the way that it just... it permeates every moment of the show, or of that serial. But that being said, it has one of my favorite characters. The guy who plays Doc Holliday, I think, is just hilarious. Just really, really charming in it. I mean, charming the way a quote-unquote bad guy can be.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I just don't hate it enough to put it in this list.
So, you're one that I didn't have on my list.
The Rescue.
The Rescue.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a hard one for me.
That's what she said.
Haven't had one of those in ages.
Also.
That's what she said. The Rescue is... I actually like bits of it. I'm sorry. I do. I like Barbara shooting Sandy the Sand Beast.
Why? Why does she shoot Sandy?
I don't know, because she wants to be big or something.
She shoots Sandy with a flare gun.
I know.
As pointed out in the episode, the kind of device that is designed to attract attention when she is in hiding.
Go, Barbara. She's brilliant. Yeah, Killian's a bit shit. It is. And I must say that I agree with you on one thing, and I agree with the reason why it probably should be on any list.
Mm-hmm. Vicky No Pants?
No, and I think in my mini review, I think I might have mentioned it. I think you mentioned it in the episode as well. It's a murder mystery with only one suspect.
Yeah, exactly. It's the worst and the dumbest kind of murder mystery, because... there is literally... it's not even a question of one person is suspicious. There is just one other person. So who do you think the killer is? It really didn't impress me very much. It also introduced Vicky. It also introduced, even though I'm going to give it bonus points for this, it does have that crazy, like, so incredibly inappropriate for children's TV in the 1960s upskirt shot of Vicky No Pants, which is just so hilariously weird. And Babs just staring up her skirt at the same time. By the way, check out the screenshot on whobackwhen.com. I'm sure... actually, you know what? I'm going to say this. I tweeted this once. I get... occasionally, I check this, but I get statistics for which, like, just random Google search terms has led people to whobackwhen.com. And you would be amazed how many people type in Vicky Pallister upskirt or Vicky Pallister ass, like that sort of thing. So many people have found our podcast thanks to that inappropriate upskirt shot that actually I almost feel like I should relocate The Rescue to my top 5 serials. I'm not, obviously. It's a terrible serial. I hate it and it should never have been made. There you go. Done.
Wow. Okay. So let's move on to one we both agree on.
Okay. So let's do Toymaker.
Toymaker. Oh my, how racist is this episode?
Oh, so racist. It's the Asian Toymaker. I think you're the one who explained this to me. I wasn't aware that Celestial was sort of an arcane derogatory term for Far Eastern.
It would be the equivalent now
of the N-word.
Of us going the slanty-eyed Toymaker.
Oh, God.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And that's not the least of it.
No, it also has fucking clowns.
Forget the fantasy. That's not the least of it. It has a set of illogical games,
Yep.
followed by illogical plot lines, followed by William Hartnell going on holiday,
Yep.
followed by an aborted regeneration,
Yep.
i.e. the whole point of him going invisible was to get rid of William Hartnell and
Exactly,
bring back
yeah.
someone else.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm glad that they didn't regenerate him in that manner. Imagine if Hartnell had
Agreed.
gone out on the Celestial Toymaker.
That would have been abysmal.
Yeah.
It does have Alfred from Batman, which is a good thing.
That is true. Michael Gough.
Playing
A terrible character. Yeah.
an Asian. Yeah, it's the equivalent of blackface. It's not good.
Yeah, he's playing a Far Eastern man from outer space.
It's abysmal.
It is. And also, let's not forget, let's remember the clowns. The clowns are there constantly. And that's not why we're tuning into Doctor Who. That's not why we want to watch this show. We're not watching it because we want people who are, like, stumbling around and shooting water out of flowers in their lapels. It's such an incredibly childish story with such demeaning undertones. Ugh, worst with a bullet.
What I will say is that the Celestial Toymaker, maybe 10, 15 years ago, would have been in my number 1 or number 2 slot of favourite episodes.
Really?
That was until it got found and we realised how bad it was. When Celestial Toymaker was just an audio and a book, it was very good. And then sadly, you actually saw what it was like and it just went downhill from there. And then you obviously realise the racism, which has to drop it down significantly.
Interesting.
And we'll listen to what the worst episodes of
our listeners
of Gina and Stephen is in a minute. But in Stephen's review of Celestial Toymaker, he actually gives it a 4.6 out of 5. And
I do remember that.
Gallifreyan Buccaneer gives it a 0.3. And I think it was, out of the entirety of Who Back When that was done in the Hartnell era,
the biggest discrepancy between...
with the exception of you and me on Edge of Destruction, this was the biggest discrepancy.
Yeah.
And it goes to show how very, very divisive this story is.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I'm almost curious to listen to the audiobook and just try to discard the visuals and the backstory.
Yeah.
But saying that, I'm still... I mean, even if it weren't racist, which it is, I still wouldn't rate this television serial. I mean, I've never listened to the audiobook. I have only seen the television serial / reconstruction. I wouldn't rate that very high. And that's mainly because, A, I effing hate clowns, and B, every single challenge, it's basically the same story on a loop. Like, the Doctor goes on holiday, Stephen and Dodo need to face some ridiculously childish challenge that anyone could win that requires absolutely no mental capacity whatsoever. Like, it doesn't require any intellectual involvement whatsoever. And then at the end, they find a fake TARDIS, rinse and repeat, and now we're gonna face another childish challenge again. Yeah, for that reason, I wouldn't rate it very high anyway. Anyway, let's have a look at what Gina and the Steve Meister have said about this.
Yeah, Gina says, I don't think of anyone who would disagree that the worst episode still goes to the Web Planet. And its awful story, irritating bleeping, and horrible costumes. And we'll come on to us discussing Web Planet in a few seconds.
Yes.
Stevens, I'm going to let you read, because like Gina and Edge of Destruction, I don't think I could get through this one without disagreeing with Stephen.
Fair enough. Stephen says, least favourite episode, The War Machines. Granted, I never got around to watching The Web Planet or The Edge of Destruction. That's where we should cut you off, by the way, Stephen. That's where we should cut you off, but doesn't matter. He goes on. Yet no matter how bad they may have been, The War Machines commits a much more serious sin in my eyes by giving Dodo the dildo and preventing her from getting a proper farewell, instead having it delivered second-hand by her replacement. As I said at the time, and hold to now, whether you hated her or only mildly disliked her, Dodo deserved better. You know what? I agree with that. I mean, I hated her, and I still feel like she deserved better, not because she as a character was worth it, but because no companion should just be discarded in absentia. It was a very, very poor way of handling it, and I don't know what the personal circumstances of What's-Her-Face, who played her, JD?
Jackie Lane.
Jackie Lane.
She was fired.
She was fired, yeah, but I don't know why. Maybe there were...
Because she just wasn't very good. This isn't against Jackie Lane, by the way. This is against the way that she was told to portray the character. This is the way that she did portray the character.
Sure.
And this is, the writing for Dodo, right? It all culminated into her not being very good.
Very little good that can come out of the written character of Dodo. Absolutely. But even if it turns out that they go, the BBC goes, we shouldn't have written this character this way, we shouldn't have had this character to begin with, let's get rid of her, even then, should they not just send her off to the countryside and 3 episodes later, let her replacement say, oh, actually, by the way, she's never coming back. There should be a goodbye scene.
But let me tell you something else about Jackie Lane.
Okay. She became an agent.
She did. That. Well done. Yeah. Which other Doctor Who companion became an agent?
Wait for it. It wasn't Vicky, was it?
No, it was Jana Fielding who played Tegan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I remember you pointing this out in a prior review.
This was the last acting that Jackie Lane did.
Yes. She never returned to Doctor Who. I remember you saying in, I think actually the War Machines review that we did.
Yeah, she never returned to anything. She never did any acting after this episode.
Jesus. Doctor Who crushed her. I hope you're happy, BBC. I hope you're pleased with yourselves.
I disagree with Stephen's comments on the War Machines, but I think I made the comments about
yeah, we've
why
both already clarified that we quite enjoy the War Machines.
So, Web Planet.
Oh, Web Planet. Yeah, can I say before we discuss the Web Planet, just so that, let's take a little meta step and jerk ourselves off a little bit here, because holy crap, I love the Who Back When review of the Web Planet. I'm obviously biased, but I'm guilty. I occasionally re-listen to it, and it's fun. And I think the reason it's fun is because the subject matter is so gratuitously shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There was just so much to mock. I hated this episode so much that I even recorded a mini review for it.
Yes, you did.
Rather than just typing it.
It was like an audition tape.
Why am I here? I had to put bleeping over my entire speech, which was hideous. Because I had to listen to that bleeping and bleeping and bleeping and beep so many times that it drove me mad. It's hideous. It's got insect movement by Rosalind de Winter.
Yes, it does.
Has a stupid plot line. It has stupid creatures. It has stupid stories. No one wants to be there. Bring that hairdryer down. Bring it down, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. The weird bukkake machine.
It's awful.
And the whole, the evil mastermind is a massive pile of coleslaw that somehow radiates some sort of telepathic energy that influences man-sized ants.
Moving on. They were our top and bottom 5, and you're welcome.
Yes, you are.
I'm going to give you a small bit of Doctor Who trivia.
Oh, let's hear it.
Because you haven't had any for at least 4 months.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Do you know what the 2 most watched episodes of Doctor Who were in the Hartnell years?
In the Hartnell years?
Yeah. Stories.
The Daleks?
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying yes or no, but go on.
Okay, I'm going to say the Daleks and... Oh, wow. Ooh, okay. I have 2 candidates.
Okay.
Either the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Okay.
Or the Web Planet. And I'm saying the Web Planet for the sole reason that, if I'm not mistaken, a piece of trivia that we introduced into our review of that was that the Web Planet was the first serial to be novelized, and very possibly that would have been based on Watcher ratings. You
got one of those 2 right.
Oh.
The most watched, and it's joint, there are 2 of them, both with 12.5 million viewers.
Oh, wow.
Was the Web Planet and The Rescue. 2 which are on your least favourite list.
Yeah.
And these will remain the most watched episodes of Doctor Who through to the Robots of Death 13 years later, and which got 12.7 million. What I would like you to note that there are only 6 serials in the entirety of Classic and New Who that have ever been watched by more people than the Web Planet. Day of the Doctor, Robots of Death, The Next Doctor, Voyage of the Damned, City of Death, and Destiny of the Daleks. That's it.
Jesus.
It is the 7th most watched Doctor Who story of all time. The least watched was actually The Smugglers, with 4.5 million viewers, and that will retain its low point in Doctor Who lore all the way through to the Mysterious Planet segment of Trial of a Time Lord.
Wow.
And there are only, I think, 5 stories which get less than The Smugglers in entirety of Doctor Who history.
I'm now looking at my bottom 5 list, and I'm wondering if The Smugglers might actually deserve a spot there.
Just because it was the least watched doesn't mean it was necessarily the worst.
No,
because
that's true.
You have Web Planet, which was the most watched, and it is undoubtedly
that's
the
definitely
shittest
true.
piece of crap that I have ever watched, apart from Love and Monsters.
which, by the way, spoiler alert, we're recording tomorrow. Okay.
So I think we move on from our ranking for a moment.
Yeah.
And have a little bit of the Doctor.
Okay.
And William Hartnell's portrayal of the Doctor as a doddery old fool travelling through space and time in a police box and getting his lines wrong every single week. I have 7 here, which are my favourites. We've got one from Stephen, and we've got
one from Gina as well.
One from Gina.
Thank you so much for sending in your thoughts on these categories, by the way. I have 5, but I haven't necessarily rated them.
No, I haven't rated them either.
Okay.
I just have a list of them. I have a feeling some of them are probably going to be in all of ours.
Yes, probably.
So, what would you say was one of your favourite flubs?
Okay, I say that I haven't ranked these, but there is one that I really want to save for last. Unless someone else beats me to it. So I'm going to go with...
Possibly at night, but I'm not a mountain goat, and I prefer walking to any day, and I hate climbing.
Yeah, that was on my list, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
From the
Time Meddler.
Time Meddler. Poor Hartnell.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think it is? A space helmet for a cow?
That's actually one of my favourite Doctor Who lines. Actually,
yeah, that's on my list as well. That's on my list. Okay,
so, we'll go on to one where I think is on mine and on Gina Guerrero's.
Oh, really?
Which is
we're on the brink of destruction.
Oh, the edge of destruction.
Of course, the edge of destruction.
That's the one that I was saying. I'm going to save that for later unless someone beats me to it. Oh, the edge of destruction.
So we all agree on that one.
Yes, absolutely, Gina. Well done.
On Gina's list, from the Keys of Marinus.
I can't improve at this very moment. I can't prove at this very moment.
I forgot about that one. That's great.
It was so had I. That is actually very good.
What has Steven sent in? Let's see what he's got. He has his favourite line flub. It's from the Smugglers, and it is...
Now, you see that scanner? That is what I call a scanner up there.
He was going a bit senile by that point.
What else have you got on your list, dude?
You're the cause of this disaster, and you both knocked both Susan and I unconscious.
Also from the edge of destruction. It's the gift that keeps on giving that episode.
Really is. Oh, the discussion it's a bottomless pit. It's a cornucopia of line flops. Okay, how about this one? From the Censorites.
Yes, but I rather fancy that's settled that little bit of solution.
Oh, the Censorites, that's also a shit episode.
I kind of disagree with you, but okay, fine.
You'll end up with a couple of burnt cinders flying around in space.
It's got on my list as well.
From the Chase.
From the Chase, yeah. And the last one I have on my list, from Galaxy 4.
I think we should get some long-deserved, undeserved peace.
Well, it is undeserved if you go and do line flubs like that. I have 3 more.
Okay, go for it.
The first one sounds like just a real line until you hear it in context of the episode. He's actually talking about a set of vials that were placed outside of the TARDIS.
Oh, okay. So this is from the Daleks.
Yes.
It's possible that they may have been anti-radiation gloves.
He doesn't even correct it.
What was that meant to be?
It's possible they may have been anti-radiation drugs.
Drugs? Gloves?
Not gloves.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
This one, which is from Dalek's Master Plan, I don't think is a flub, I just think it's just crazy.
Okay.
And he can't possibly have meant it.
What is it?
The madhouse is all full of animals.
Oh, yes, of course.
No idea why.
It's the Feast of Stephen, when they're suddenly on a Hollywood film lot.
Yeah, it has to be Feast of Stephen, doesn't it? And finally, my favourite flub is from Marinus.
Yes, and if you'd had your shoes on, my boy, you could have lent her hers.
Yes, of course. Oh, I remember that. I think we soundbited that in that episode.
So, there are favourite Billy Boys.
That's when he tells Ian that after Susan drops her shoe into a pool of acid or something.
Yeah, Ian is just a whipping boy in that episode.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for a list again, and
okay.
I think it's a list of companions.
I was just about to say that's my third one down here. I have 10 companions on my list.
Good. Thank God. We both have the same number of companions.
I was just about to say, like, please tell me you don't have, like, 11 and I've forgotten one.
No, we both have 10 companions.
We have 10 companions. Shall we go from worst to best?
Okay, worst to best. I would agree.
Okay. Number 10.
Before we start,
Okay.
I will say that I have ranked the companions Ben and Polly and Ian and Barbara together.
Oh, interesting.
Joints.
Okay, I haven't. I've split them up.
Number 10, Dodo Chaplet. There can be no choice other than that.
Number 10. Dodo Chaplets. I'm really sorry, Dildo. I am really sorry. I didn't like you.
I'm not. Right? You made
You made
so
your bed.
so many stories unwatchable by being there. Most notably, the Ark. Number 9. You first.
Katerina.
Number 9. Katerina.
Oh, interesting.
You had so much potential, but you were fired from the TV show because they all thought that no one would understand why you were there.
I think no one would understand why she was there because because she was written in the wrong way.
She was.
She turned up in which one is it? Is it the Daleks' Master Plan? No, it's not the Daleks' Master Plan. It's the Chase.
No.
Wait, hang on. What follows Mythmakers?
No, she appears in the Mythmakers. She is the handmaiden. She's a handmaiden.
Yeah,
so
I know. What is
she appears at Master Plan. Sorry,
Master Plan. It is in Master Plan when she dies. So
yeah.
In Master Plan, she could have been this person who's like super interested and curious about everything, and maybe she thinks a little bit like, oh, these are all gods or something, because it's all like she doesn't get technology. But instead, she's just this really frightened person who doesn't know how to maneuver a doorknob.
but she is the very first person who sacrifices herself to save the Doctor.
Does she actually do that knowingly?
Yes,
Are you sure?
quite blatantly, she is saving her god, who is the Doctor.
Okay. See, to me, I think there's a little bit of ambiguity there. I'm not sure if she did that knowingly to, as you say, save her god, or if she just didn't know how, like, locking mechanisms worked and she accidentally threw herself out an airlock. Regardless, I'm glad that she did. I'm glad that she did.
And she is still number 9.
Yeah, she's still better than Dodo. Okay, number 8.
Sarah Kingdom.
Number 8, Vicky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, I think, deserves to be this low because she is just not given enough screen time to develop.
Yeah, that's true, but she also isn't given enough screen time to annoy the shit out of me, which Vicky did from the get-go. Like, from the very first moment when she shows up in the goddamn rescue and she flashes her pants at Babs, I really disliked her. I didn't find her very interesting, and Sarah Kingdom she has one benefit to her, I feel. It's like an expressly written, strong female character. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's totally like mega bananas. She kills her own brother. She is like a little bit too gung-ho at times. But she is actually expressly written to be a strong female character, and we haven't had enough of those.
Number 7, Vicky Pallister.
Number 7, Sarah Kingdom.
So we've reversed the order of these,
Yeah,
and
completely superfluous argument.
Yeah, I'm not. I wasn't going to argue with anything you said. I agree, but Vicky, yeah,
Sure.
Wow, the Vicky irritation index, which I managed to stretch out for at least all of her stories.
Yeah, agreed.
Wow, she was annoying in a way that Susan wasn't. And Dodo wasn't. Susan was, out of the 3 kid characters they had on the show,
Yeah.
Susan was the Doctor's granddaughter. She was a time lady before that term existed. She was, a unique take on a variety of things. Vicky was irritating and Dodo was dull. So, that's my opinion. So, number 6.
Am I going first?
You're good first time.
Okay. Number 6, Stephen.
Number 6, Stephen Taylor.
Oh, wow. All right. We are massively in agreement here. I love this. Okay.
I like Peter Purvis for a very good reason, which is not relevant to Who Back When
Okay.
so far, which is that he just throws audiobooks out like they're going out of fashion. And
that's good.
He has done so many brilliant ones, including some William Hartnell ones, with a new companion called Oliver. He did 3 of them. They're brilliant. And he obviously loves Doctor Who. He will do interviews on Doctor Who. He will, he'll take part in anything.
He sat down with Loose Cannon Productions to introduce their reconstruction of, I can't remember what it was now.
And we
Oh,
saw
it was
him
the Daleks Master Plan, I think.
and we saw him live, didn't we? He was at the 50th anniversary.
Was he? You know what? I'm going to assume that he was, and if he was, then we saw him. Sorry, Stephen, I've completely forgotten.
Okay, so 4.
No, 5.
Well, I have a joint 4th.
Oh, I see. I'm going to split them up.
Okay.
I'm going to split them up.
Would you like me to split them up just for ease of use?
If you like, it's up to you. It's up to you.
Okay, number 4. Sorry, number 5, please.
Number 5 for me. Oh, wait, hang on. Can I just say about Stephen? Stephen, I really liked Stephen as a companion, but in the beginning he was super annoying, though, and towards the end he wasn't given, unfortunately he wasn't given good enough serials, or his part in them wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I agree, and I have 3 words about Stephen. Needs more panda.
Yes, exactly. I know that on the show, on Who Back When, I've said, thank God he got rid of his stuffed panda, but
it would have made him interesting.
It would have made him interesting if he had been just a little bit wibbly wobbly, just kind of wonky, and he was carrying around this panda very much like what's it called? The volleyball in Castaway.
Yes.
Wilson. Like, if he had walked around with his own panda version of Wilson, something interesting could have been done with that, and they didn't. So, fine, whatever.
5.
Number 5, Ben Jackson.
Number 5, Polly Wright.
Interesting.
Let's do 4 first.
Okay.
Just to make sure, but number 4, Leon?
Number 4, Polly Wright.
Number 4, Ben Jackson.
Okay, so why is Ben a better companion than Polly?
Better looking sailor. If the only way that I could describe the reason I have put him above Polly. I had them both of joint 4th.
Okay.
But I would have Ben above Polly.
Ladies and gentlemen, JD is blushing right now. Okay. You know what? That's a very fair consideration. I think Polly has had more interesting things to do. That's the only thing, in my opinion. Now, the thing is, where I'm at with Troughton, I'm still watching Ben and Polly. So I don't know how, and I actually have no idea how much longer they're going to be on the show. And for all I know, stuff is going to happen. Oh, one more story? One more serial?
I think it's 1 more from where you are.
My next one is The Underwater Menace.
2 more.
2 more serials. Okay, so they're actually not that much. I was going to say, I don't know if something happens in the remaining serials that I haven't watched that might change my perception of them, but so far at least, for me, it seems as though Polly is getting slightly more interesting things to do, while Ben is... he's a strong character, but he's just strong, you know what? He's physically strong. He isn't take charge, make, hard decisions strong. He's a fighter, not a planner, not a clever guy.
I am. His screen time goes downhill incredibly when Fraser Hines comes in the Highlander.
That's a bit of a shame.
But I can almost not separate these two. They are Ben and Polly. 1 word.
Fair enough.
And
but you know what? Polly is a cracking typist.
She is a cracking typist. How sexist was that?
So sexist.
But I am saying Ben is, if we're splitting them, which you are, I'm putting Ben ahead purely on looks.
Fair enough. So superficial, but that's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Number 3, Susan Foreman.
Number 3, Susan Foreman.
Susan, again, one of the original companions, the Doctor's granddaughter, great backstory. Carol Ann Ford.
Wait, hang on, what backstory? She has no backstory. She's just the granddaughter. That's her backstory.
Yes, you get more in the audiobooks.
Oh, okay.
And you just imagine so much more backstory. She is the Doctor's granddaughter. For someone that is completely asexual through the rest of Doctor Who, how did she come about? Is she really the Doctor's granddaughter? Is she a time lady? What happens to her? And you get some amazing, amazing audiobooks with her and Paul McGann.
Oh, which I really, really want to listen to, actually.
And, Susan... Yeah, she had much more potential in An Unearthly Child than ended up later on. She had much more potential in The Sensorites, where she was actually quite psychic, and she could also, in Marinus as well, I think, in the Screaming Jungle. I like her. I think she is easily my favourite companion here, who is not one of the first 2.
Sure. Agree with everything you just said. She was annoying at times, but she was actually, in retrospect, super charming. Not a bad actress at all. She was just maybe not given as big a chance as the other characters, as the other companions, the grown-ups. which in fact she reiterated herself when we saw her at the 50th anniversary convention. She was saying she was never given a mission, a challenge. Instead, she was the character who always ran away screaming from a monster and had to be saved by someone else. But no, the fact that she was there also lent the Doctor a different dimension, and later on, when we get to some of our favorite Doctor quotes, at least one of my favorite Doctor quotes wouldn't have come about had it not been for her, and that quote, in turn, then lends him much more gravitas and just spark as an individual. So yeah, no, Susan, great one. Let's move on to number 2.
Okay, I'm not doing it. I will not split these two.
Okay, don't do it.
They are joint first, Ian and Barbara.
Interesting.
I can't split them. They are an inseparable pair of characters.
Yeah.
You know, I got beaten down by you. I got beaten down by your harassment of me to split Ben and Polly. And I can't do it with Ian and Barbara.
Okay. Fair enough.
But if you were to force me,
yeah.
Which I can tell
which
that
I'm
you
not.
are.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, I really am not.
I would put Barbara ahead by a smidgen.
Oh, wow! Okay, that's fantastic. I went number 2, Barbara Wright. Number 1, Ian Chatterton / Chesterton.
I think you're totally wrong. I think Barbara is better by far. Barbara's cardigan gives her more gravitas, I think. Sensible knitwear.
What about Ian's power cardi? What about the fact that Ian could sport a suit and a Windsor knot through the most horrendous adventures?
Barbara's cardigan was killed off in an episode.
Yeah, by Ian. Ian ate it. Ian ate her cardigan.
Hated that cardigan because of the power it gave her. Okay, all joking aside, amazing character.
Yeah, exactly, agreed.
Barbara is truly not someone that runs away scared. Dalek's master plan.
The Aztecs.
The Aztecs. The Daleks.
Yeah. Dalek invasion of Earth.
Worse, she is a resistance leader.
Yeah.
Better one than Vicky is.
Oh, much better.
Edition.
Much better.
I said Dalek's master plan, I meant Dalek invasion of Earth. But Ian and Barbara, you know, they are
Sure.
the original and will always be the original.
Barbara is also a little bit of a, crazy Looney Tunes person. Like, in the Aztecs, she completely, just wholeheartedly embraces having been mistaken for a god, and then tries to use her new divine influence to change history. And in, what was the other one I was going to say? I had another example of this. The Keys of Marinus, in the episode where everyone is seeing what they want to see. Babs goes in first, right? And all of a sudden, within 12 seconds, she has turned herself into an empress, just being hand-fed grapes and, pandered by slaves with massive palm leaves. She is a little... Sometimes she just took the luxuries of the trip a little bit too seriously.
Okay. I think we need to go to our companions in this journey.
Okay.
Stephen and Gina.
Fantastic. All right.
So,
ladies first.
Ladies first. So, if you would like to read Gina's this time.
You know what? Thank you very much for offering that. I would like to read it. In looking at the companions, says Gina, my favourites are still the OGs by Barbara and Ian. Barbara displayed a quiet strength and intelligence without always being the damsel in distress. She didn't mind messing up her perfectly coiffed hair. Ian was a great leading man, being both a fighter and a voice of reason for the Doctor. And I still believe that his strength came from those cardigans he wore. Exactly, JD. Thank you very much, Gina. Gina goes on. My favourite moments were when they were questioning and challenging the Doctor and his plans, much to his chagrin. I can admit that sometimes Barbara made irrational decisions and Ian couldn't tell the difference between stone and metal.
Science teacher Ian Chesterton.
Yes, science teacher. But they still holds a special place in my heart.
Okay, so Stephen's favourite companion is Barbara Wright. She set the standards for female companions to follow by rarely being a damsel in distress, often finding ways to save herself or others and running down a Dalek with a truck. That last feat would not be matched until 1988, when a companion would attack a Dalek with a baseball bat.
Oh, which companion is that?
Ace. Sophie Aldred.
Awesome. Well, okay, fine. I guess no one's going to put Ian first. Regardless, yes, Babs and Ian, definitely the top 2. Shall we jump back up to Gina's least favourite one?
And Gina says this very, very simply, and in a way, the way that she says it says everything that needs to be said. Worst companion goes to the most useless companion ever, Vicky.
Fair enough.
I disagree that she's the most useless, but let's put it one way. She had an irritation index that I named after her.
She absolutely did. And I both love and miss the irritation index. Stephen's least favorite companion, meanwhile, Dodo Chaplet. Yes, I am picking up what you're putting down, Stephen. Stephen says, I certainly won't be alone here. Nope.
No.
While I have no special dislike for Dodo, she was definitely the weakest of Hartnell's companions, falling short of Barbara's standard. Even Katerina, had she lived, could have been more interesting as we watched her adapt to the strange sights she saw as a TARDIS traveller.
As they say, all the young kids say on Facebook these days, like? I can't add anything to it.
No,
I really can't.
Yeah, well done. Well done, both of you.
So, we've done a couple of rankings. I think it's time for take a step back and have a thought about our great and worst and best Doctor Who lines.
Lovely.
Our favourite quotes.
You know what? You're actually following the exact same order that I've got on my list here as well.
Maybe because I copied and pasted it from you. I don't know. I have two quotes, which I think are outside of being the best lines in Hartnell.
Okay.
I think they define some of the things that Doctor Who is about. One is from An Unearthly Child and one is from Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Okay.
One is probably the single most iconic Doctor Who line ever spoken until David Tennant turns up and says, I don't want to go. And the other one sums Doctor Who up.
Okay.
So, from An Unearthly Child.
Let me get this straight. A thing that looks like a police box standing in a junkyard. It can move anywhere in time and space?
Yes. Quite so.
From Ian Chesterton. It sums up Doctor Who. That's what it is.
It does, yeah.
A thing that looks like a police box. In a junkyard, inconspicuous, no one's noticing it, travelling through time and space. And then we get to the one, this is probably the most repeated line in Doctor Who. Because sadly, due to the passing of William Hartnell, whenever they have a many Doctor episode, there's very little that they can do. And this quote from Dalek Invasion of Earth was the very first thing spoken at the start of the Five Doctors.
Oh, I know exactly what it is.
And when the 50th anniversary came along, they did it in transitioning from black and white to colour.
Oh, wow.
Which is...
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Which is his goodbye to Susan.
That was number one on my list as well. It's a beautiful way of saying farewell. Even though, I may be ruining the mood a little bit by saying this, but even though that is probably one of the biggest asshole moments of William Hartnell's First Doctor. I mean, in that he's leaving his granddaughter in post-apocalyptic London for no reason whatsoever with one shoe.
What is happening around that?
Yeah, is god-awful. Yeah, and practically inexcusable, but his emotional dealing with it is beautiful. And in fact, on the note of this one line, or this one quote, you know what, I want to say this was SGamer82 as well, who sent in, via Twitter, a link to a video of Paul McGann reciting that line.
Yeah.
And, you know what, we'll embed the video of Paul McGann saying that. In fact, we'll embed both. If I can find the William Hartnell one as well, I'll pop that on there as well. And you can check that out on whobackone.com.
Because they did a few things, and he's done a few of the big Doctor Who speeches, but, you know, as to how he would done them as the Eighth Doctor.
Yeah.
And they had Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker doing some of the big speeches as well. But, you know, this was done looking at the camera, just standing there, twiddling his lapels like Peter Capaldi. And it's just a speech.
Yeah.
It is a heartfelt speech. And you compare that to what a lot of people rant and rave about being the best speech ever in Doctor Who, which is Matt Smith's Pandorica speech in the Pandorica Opens. That speech there is full of fire and brimstone and him jumping around and screaming and shouting and waving his arms around. This is the quiet dignity of the First Doctor.
I agree. Almost parallel to this one is also the... I'm struggling to remember which episode this happens in. It's in Dodo's first one. Is it in Dodo's first one? Yeah, I think so. I think it might be at the end of the massacre when Stephen leaves him and just before Stephen and Dodo suddenly turn up. And he's sitting back and he's going through all of the companions that he's lost over the years.
They were all too impatient to get back to their own time. And now, Stephen. Perhaps I should go home. Back to my own planet. But I can't.
Yeah.
You're right. And
So there is a certain parallel there.
And we mock William Hartnell for his, bring the hair dry down. Yeah, quite a lot. But he does these speeches very well. Flawlessly. So, what other favourite Doctor Who lines do you have?
I have one from the Daleks' Master Plan, in which Hartnell goes,
Well, I suppose you might say that I am a citizen of the universe, and a gentleman to boot.
Absolutely, and that is a classic William Hartnell line, and I missed it off my list. I probably shouldn't have done.
and it's one of those that just sums him up as well.
You know, you have some very funny lines, and you said one earlier, which is...
What do you mean, maybe? What do you think it is, a space helmet for a cow?
But he does his best lines when he is thinking about other people.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
From The Chase.
Yes, I see, Miss Swan. Silly old fusspots.
Yeah, I know. That's a really nice one.
The Departure of Ian and Barbara.
Shall we see what Gina and Stephen said?
I agree. Let's. So, Gina.
Oh, Gina has a little collection of quotes here.
So, I must admit, the first one is the first time you just see the Doctor going completely Ian Chesterton on someone.
Okay, go for it.
You know, I am so constantly outwitting the opposition, I tend to forget the delights and satisfaction of the arts, the gentle art of fisticuffs.
Which is pretty awesome. It's said right after he's just thrown a would-be assassin out of the window.
I agree with her next one, by the way.
Oh yeah, great one, from the Aztecs.
I made some cocoa and got engaged.
And
How dare you, young man? How dare you, sir? I didn't invite you into the ship in the first place. You both thrust yourselves upon me!
Doctor, stop!
Oh, for heaven's sake, I've never heard such nonsense.
which is from the very start of The Chase, which obviously ends with my silly old fusspot line.
Yeah, actually very nicely bookending it.
So, the favourite quotes from Stephen.
He goes, my favourite quotes were typically those that, by obvious accident, fit perfectly or became amusing with the benefit of hindsight. My absolute favourite being from episode 2 of the Space Museum, said by Barbara, and acting as a perfect description of the Doctor from Hartnell to Capaldi.
Doctor's curious. That means we stay.
Oh, yeah, totally. That sums up another reason for why Doctor Who has lasted for so long.
Yeah, absolutely.
He continues, because it's funny in hindsight, the Doctor admonishing his companions in The Gunslingers with,
Why can't you wear inconspicuous clothes like I do?
well, let's say that to Colin Baker.
Yes, exactly.
Bing bong, Future Pumpkin here. Yes. No need to taunt us on Twitter. The serial in question is called The Gunfighters. Back to the show, bing bong.
And he rounds off with a reference to something that we've actually already listed. He says, the Doctor's monologue at the end of the massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, in which the Doctor expresses sentiments that wouldn't be out of place if said by his modern-day counterparts. Very true.
And indeed was in the regeneration scene of Paul McGann, where he lists Molly, Tamsin.
Exactly, yeah, very true. Oh, I didn't think about that. Good point.
Very similar.
Yeah.
So do you have any other favourite lines from Hartnell?
I only have one, spoken to Stephen, in, I want to say The Time Meddler. He goes,
That is the dematerializing control, and that over yonder is the horizontal hold. Up there is the scanner, those are the doors, that is the chair with the panda on it. Sheer poetry, dear boy. Now please stop bothering me.
It's brilliant, yes. It's on my list as well.
and that's it, that's all I've got.
I have 4 more.
4 more, okay.
And one of them is only due to Who Back When.
Okay.
And I've mentioned it before, which is in The Time Meddler.
And remember, no more monkery.
Yes, very good one.
Which ultimately means, yes, more monkery. Please, more monkery. We want more of the monk. From the Space Museum.
Doctor, we've got our clothes on.
But I should hope so, dear boy, I should hope so.
Which is just him being completely blasé.
Yeah.
And my favourite two, and these are 2 of my favourite Doctor Who lines. The first one, and I quote this line, I think I must have done it about 50 times during all of the Who Back Whens that you and I have done together. It's from the Aztecs.
You can't rewrite history, not one line.
Very true.
And finally, and I think it bookends this whole thing that Gina, you, me and Stephen have all said about quotes which sum up Doctor Who. And it is the very start of the Censorites, where he's talking to his assembled companions, and and he says,
Yes, it all started out as a mild curiosity in the junkyard. And now it's turned out to be quite a Quite a great spirit of adventure, don't you think?
And I think that sums up Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's really lovely as well.
But miserably, sadly, I have 3 lines which I think are abysmal.
Okay.
That came from the Hartnell era. From my review of the Space Museum, is Vicky's just nonsense of...
Time, like space, although a dimension in itself, also has dimensions of its own.
But it's so profound, JD. How can you not like that? Okay, what are the other ones?
Take them away to the security kitchen.
And...
From the Ark, yeah, that's great.
From the Ark. And finally, from the War Machines. I think I ranted about this in the War Machine review, and we'll rant about it till the end of time. Okay, I'm a bit confused about why Doctor Who is required, considering that's not his name.
Yeah, and...
Stupid Photan.
And also, why is he required? Basta.
He wasn't required during this entire show.
No.
So.
Okay, yeah, very nice. Shall we jump into Creatureland? What is the best creature?
Well...
It has to be... I mean, it has to be.
It's possibly Sandy the Sand Beast. But I think that there is no way of going through the Hartnell era without saying it has to be the Daleks.
Yeah, the Daleks are my number 1 as well. I'm not going to go through the rest of the list for time constraints. But yeah, Daleks definitely the best one.
Number 1 and number 2 has to be the Daleks and the Cybermen. Because that is it.
That's exactly what I have on my list as well.
Doctor Who.
No doubt. What about the worst ones?
Oh, well, there's a choice, isn't there? There's a real choice here. And it has to go to Insect Movement by Rosalind de Winter.
Yeah.
And I can't actually even say Zarbi. I have to say everything on that fucking planet. The Zarbi, the Zarbi, the Menoptera, the Animus. They are the worst creatures in Doctor Who.
Interesting. Okay, you know what? I'm going to make an exception. I'm going to read my bottom 5. Okay. Starting with the 5th worst. 5th worst, Ice Knights from Keys of Marinus. 4th worst, Mechanoids. Then Zarbi, Optera, and Menoptera as the absolute worst ones. And I'm giving an honourable mention to Count Dracula.
Yeah, it's, so we can sum up our least favourite creatures in Doctor Who by saying the Web Planet.
The Web Planet, exactly. Alright. Best foe. Who's your favourite foe?
See, this one was significantly harder.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to figure it out. And it has to be the monk.
Same here.
Meddling monk. It's the first time you meet another Gallifreyan, first time you meet another Time Lord. Years before Time Lord was even mentioned. He's got another TARDIS, and he has a whiteboard.
Is it a whiteboard? I think it's one of those things, like it's a little roll down kind of... Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's terrible. Love the monk for the exact same reasons. I've listed him as my favourite foe as well.
And he's a great actor in Peter Butterworth.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Super charming. Definitely happy to see him again on Doctor Who. And sadly, we only see him one more time, if I'm not mistaken. That's it.
Oh yes, but audiobooks ahoy.
Audiobooks, exactly. Yeah, I'm very happy to delve into that as well. Other foes that I considered for the number 1 spot, but ultimately decided against, Mavic Chen, Tlotoxel from the Aztecs. He's a pretty nefarious bastard. And Tegana from, what's it called? Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
Yeah. But the monk, absolutely, best one. Alright, who's the worst? No, I think we can agree on this one.
Well,
Let's say it at the same time.
Go on.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. The Celestial Toy Maker. Yes, absolutely.
I'm so sorry, Alfred from Batman. Michael Gough, you have my utmost respect for a lot of other things you've done in Doctor Who and other films, and in fact everything else you've done in your life. You were duped, mate.
Yeah, he was. Sad but true. What is the name of the species? He's not a Time Lord. He is something else of time.
Isn't he an Eternal?
Is that what he is?
I thought he was an Eternal.
Oh.
Because I know he's called a Mandarin.
Yeah. No, it's in his species. Oh, whatever.
Yeah, it might have been mentioned in a Nightmare Fair, but I'm unsure.
Okay. Bing bong. I looked it up. Guess where? I looked it up on whobackwhen.com. You'd think that I'd know what's on there.
Turns out the Celestial Toymaker belongs to the species known as the Guardians of Time. He is also, in fact, known as the Crystal Guardian. Way better name than the Celestial Toymaker or the Mandarin, I think you'll agree. Anyway, back to the show.
Well, regardless, definitely the worst one. Thank God he didn't reappear. Done.
So, you also asked us what was our favourite nicknames that we gave to...
Yeah, this was not my idea. I cannot take credit for it. Full credit for this goes to, yes, you guessed it, Steven, SGamer82. Thank you very much. So yeah, what were your favourite Who Back When nicknames for characters that we've encountered?
I'm afraid that Gina and I agree on ours.
Yeah.
And I think we can just call him in, actually. Yeah, come in if you want.
Yeah, it is Dalek 347.
Nice one. She also lists another 3 nicknames, 2 of which are on my list. She lists Vicky as Vapor Rub.
My least favourite companion.
And Hunks number 1 and number 2 of the Thal. Has Steven submitted one? He has. Yes, and this one's on my list as well.
Also on my list, and this is the other one on my list, which was the Barbara, Ian, and the irritating one being known as the notorious BIV.
Yeah, and just to add a little note from earlier on in his email, he said he wanted to list the Space Museum as an honourable mention because it contains his favourite quote of the Hartnell era, and as he says, my favourite Who Back When nickname, which is probably the moment the podcast truly won me over.
And the review of the Space Museum is very good.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like it. You know what? So do I. God damn it. If you not listened to it, listen to it now. But yes, Notorious BIV. Thank you so much for picking your favourites, guys. It's pretty sweet. On my list, I only have one more that wasn't named, and that is Brave Syrian.
Brave Syrian.
Yeah. You know what? That pretty much, that covers everything on our list.
It does. So, if we look at Hartnell.
Yeah.
And you had to pick 1 or 2 of your favourite moments from the Hartnell era, what would they be? Anything.
Oh.
Anything at all.
Holy crap, I haven't prepared anything. I haven't really thought about this.
I'll start you off.
Okay, go for it.
They're the first 2 appearances by the Daleks in each of their stories. That very first plunger menacing Barbara, and you don't know what's going to happen next. And, how terrified she looks, and you're wondering what this could be coming towards her. And then the Dalek rising from the Thames at the start of Dalek Invasion of Earth. And, the Daleks are back. They were my 2 favourite Dalek parts. And then you have the bookending of the entire Hartnell run. You start off with Ian and Barbara. Barbara, when she forces her way past the Doctor and into this bigger on the inside police box that they've walked around, this console room, this white spaceship that was about to take them anywhere in time and space. And finally, the 10th planet. And he goes back into the TARDIS where he spent, a lot of his life. The controls start moving of their own accord, and then he's different.
Yeah, well, I absolutely cannot add anything to that list now. The 10th planet is, it really gets me very emotional thinking about Hartnell's farewell there. He's suddenly such a mature character, and it's almost as though he's speaking to a far more mature audience than he was in the beginning of the show.
And I think that anyone that has enjoyed Hartnell needs to go back and watch David Bradley's take on Hartnell in An Adventure in Space and Time. Exactly. It shows how behind the scenes Hartnell was in love with this show.
Oh, he really was.
He had created. He was getting old, and he was slowing down, and he still loved the show, and he would still be to a generation of children that would eventually grow up, and one of those people would eventually become the Doctor himself, Peter Capaldi. He was the Doctor.
Yeah, very true. No, William Hartnell was... I hadn't seen a single episode of Hartnell's when we started this podcast, and I'm tremendously in awe of the beginnings of Doctor Who. Thanks to William Hartnell, he did such an incredibly good job. Yes, we make fun of his line flubs, and yes, he was a little bit of a Mr. Magoo character at times, but you can really see how his performance and those first couple of seasons really just solidified, cemented, and just made 50 years of this franchise that we love and we adore. And what an incredibly charming man he seems to have been. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. I'm basing this on the bias of being a Doctor Who fan and of having seen An Adventure in Space and Time.
It doesn't matter. You know, the behind the scenes doesn't matter.
Exactly.
What he was like as a person, you know, we're talking about 50 years ago. It was a very different time.
Exactly. We're not talking about him as an individual off screen. We're talking about his performance on screen. And
we are sitting here 52 years now on.
Yeah.
And we are talking about him. 52 years.
52 years later, yeah. And also, let's take a moment and say that, I mean, the Hartnell years, they're not just Hartnell. Obviously, he's at the core of that. But the writing that went into those years, the production that went into that, all the other actors that were part of the Hartnell years, they created something fantastic.
Absolutely, and I, you know, Verity Lambert, Waris Hussein, you know, the producers and directors of Doctor Who back then. And I think we need to have a mention, because we mentioned him very early on in passing, but we need to mention Terry Nation.
Yeah.
Because you can put a Dalek on a TV screen and even people that have not watched Doctor Who know what it is.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a bridge in London that's redesigned to look like a Dalek.
You have a TARDIS. You have a police box. You know, the original idea, which was shit, was that it was going to be an invisible box that no one could see.
Great.
Because it was a cheap way of making a spaceship.
Sure.
And they didn't. They came up with this idea of a chameleon circuit, of it being cloaked in the form of a police box. And to the point now where no one, you know, the people of, you know, young generations have never seen a police box. They don't know what a police box is, apart from in the context
of Doctor Who.
Of Doctor Who. Yeah. And that's what it is. That's not a police box, it's a TARDIS.
Exactly.
And I don't think we've got much more left to say.
Except for one tiny little thing. It's revenge, my friend.
Ah!
You hit me with a surprise quiz at the end of our Eccleston retrospective, and now that we have reached what I think is fair to say, the end of the Hartnell retrospective, I'm going to quiz you.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I would be, but having not watched any Doctor Who through working over the past 4 months, I'm probably a bit rusty on Doctor Who, which is a bit weird. But let's try. Let's see what we've got.
No problem. Okay, the first question is actually also listener submitted, and it is, who called the Doctor, quote, Doctor Who?
Votan.
Correct. Question number 2.
Damn you, Votan! From the War Machine.
Question number 2. Where was said character based?
The post office tower, the newly created post office tower in London.
Correct. Very good. I'm impressed that you didn't go for BT Tower, by the way. Well done. Question number 3.
He wasn't around at the time.
Yeah, exactly. See, I would have gone BT Tower or whatever it was called back then. Anyway, 2 for 2. Question number 3. There were 2 invisible beings, or species rather, in Hartnell's run. Name at least one of them.
Oh, Christ.
I can give you a hint.
Yes. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
One is from the Ark, and it's the Refusions.
Well done.
The second one is from the Keys of Marinus, and is it from the Keys of Marinus?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. No. Maybe it was. I only remember the scene, but I can't remember.
Wait, no, I'll have to go. I'll have to go with only knowing the Refusions in the Ark.
That's more than I would have known. The other species is called Visions.
Ah, yes, of course.
That's the one I think we only see them at one point when they're shot by some sort of energy weapon, and you see the outline of it.
Yeah, wasn't that, was that Master Plan?
I think actually, yes. I think that is Dalek's Master Plan. Okay, 3 for 3. Question number 4. There are 10, by the way.
Okay.
Question number 4. The War Machines were an attempt to replace the Daleks, but not the first attempt. What was one of the prior attempts called?
Monoids, Chumblies.
Wait, monoids were an attempt to replace the Daleks?
Mechanoids, sorry.
Mechanoids, there you go.
Mechanoids
and Chumblies.
Chumblies. Loads of other shit. The grumbly things. Yeah, loads of them.
Nice one. 4 for 4.
Never beaten.
Never beaten, no, you can't beat the Daleks. Question number 5. In the Daleks' master plan, the monk's TARDIS is seen flipping through its chameleon circuitry settings. Name 2 different things that it appears as.
Oh, Christ. See, I want to say Corinthian column, but I have a feeling that is...
The Doctor's TARDIS?
No, I think
the backstory.
The Corinthian column was the Master's TARDIS.
Ah.
I was going to say Sedan Chair was also the Doctor's TARDIS. I'm going to go with Sedan Chair and the sarcophagus from the Time Meddler.
Okay, I hadn't thought about the sarcophagus, which you can't see in the Daleks' master plan, but I will accept that because I'd completely forgotten about that, and that is definitely what the TARDIS does look like at one point. I would have also accepted a block of stone, a motorbike, a carriage, a wagon, a German tank, and a police box.
Right, no, I'll take. I didn't know that one. Yeah.
Are you sure about that? I'm willing to throw you a bone here.
I'll take a half. I'll take a half for that one.
You get a half point. I completely forgot about the TARDIS, the sarcophagus, or the altar, or whatever it is. Is this what is it?
I think it's a tomb. It's
a tomb. No, you're right. You are right. Okay. Question number 6. Which agency did Mark Corey belong to in Mission to the Unknown?
Oh, why do you have to do the Daleks Master Plan and Mission to the Unknown one?
I'm sorry.
Right. So, yes, because I nearly had it for one of my favourite lines. It's Corey, Mark Corey, Space Security Service, License to Kill.
Well done. Nice one.
That was nearly one of my favourite lines, actually. It's so cheesy.
Super cheesy, with his crappy laminated ID badge.
That's so bad.
Okay, question number 7. What was the monster god of the Daleks in Daleks' Invasion of Earth called?
The Slifer?
Yes, correct. Question number 8. What's the name... Oh god, I'm sorry, you're gonna just hate me for this. What's the name of the planets where the so-called coalition of kick-ass meets to plot the destruction of the universe? It was my number 1, dude. I'm sorry.
Okay. Right. Is it... Right. They are on Kemble for part of that episode. Is it Kemble?
Yes, it is Kemble.
I don't like that episode.
I'm sorry. Well done, though. Well done.
Thank you.
Question 9. Stephen Taylor had a friend on Mechanus. What kind of friend was it?
He had a small panda.
Yes. And the last question. In which episode do we find out, for certain, what shade of underwear Vicky wears?
Is it the rescue?
Yes, it is the rescue. Well done. 9.5 out of 10, and that's only because you willingly took a 0.5 hit. Well done.
Thank you.
I'll see you in the Troughton room.
I don't know Troughton as well as I know Hartnell, but I love Hartnell. And I think that while there has been some very mocking moments of Who Back When...
Yes.
Of the Hartnell eras.
Lovingly so.
With the exception of the Web Planet, which is not loving. And deservedly so. I think, thank you for bringing Who Back When to the audience and allowing a lot of people who hadn't actually known about the Hartnell eras to revisit, you know, the wonder that is black and white Doctor Who. And to...
That's really sweet of you to say.
To Jack and to Rory and to Nick, and to myself, who have co-hosted a variety of those episodes for making good fun of it.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to see about getting Drew on board with the classics as well. We'll see. Hey, dude, thank you so much for coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've... Okay, here's the thing.
He's saying this after recording for 2.5 hours, forgetting how long-winded I am. I bet these ones with Drew and Nick, right? There are, 1 hour, 10-minute episodes. And you record them in 1 hour and 10 minutes. And this is what? 2.5 hours.
Well, I've really missed you on the show, and Who Back When has really missed you, and I know for a fact, because we're told so, I know for a fact that fans of this podcast have missed you. So, we are now in the middle of August 2015. When can we expect to have you back on Who Back When more regularly? I
have recorded a small mini-review for Love and Monsters, which I adore, in the same way as the Web Planet. And... hopefully I should be back to bring us some more Lucy Miller, because we all need a little bit more Lucy Miller in our lives.
Yeah, we need to wrap up the 8th Doctor Adventures.
We do indeed, especially since we are getting to the point where the monk appears again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's good. And back to Classic Who, hopefully, probably at the start of your next season of David Tennant.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. It's awesome seeing you again, man. Fantastically good fun chatting with you. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what you should do now? You should go stalk JD on the interwebs. You can do so by going to Twitter. Follow JD. He is at Marius Kane. That is Kane with a K. It's been so long since I said that.
I know, and if you wish to follow Ponkin, you listen to this podcast and don't need me to tell you, but he is at Ponkin.
Yes, here's the soundbite of Past JD singing how you spell that.
Ponken, Ponkin.
Thanks, Past JD.
So thank you to everyone who contributed. Thank you to you, Leon, for inviting me back to come and do this. Thank you to Dalek347. And I've been JD. It's been wonderful.
Catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening. Ciao. And that's it. That was so much fun. Holy crap. 2.5 hours. Oh. Post-production, man.
This is what I bring with me.
Kablamo! Did you enjoy the show? Then please do what the cosmos compels you to and spread the gospel of Who Back When. Tell your friends. Don't have any friends? No problemo. Tell some strangers. Like us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Who Back When, all in one word. Are you on Google Plus? Then find us on Google Plus. That's plus Who Back When. And when you do, tell us why you're on Google Plus. Who Back When just got its very own Twitter account, no lie, so give us a follow. You guessed it, that's at Who Back When, all in one word. Check us out on SoundCloud, vote us up on Reddit, listen to us on Stitcher, and head on over to our website, whobackwhen.com, where you can leave a comment, submit a review of your own, and peruse our visual index of aliens, monsters, and more, which increases in kablamos with every episode. And lastly, give us a rating and review on iTunes. Not only would it make us super chuffed, and it really, really would, but as thanks, we will transmigrate your iTunes nom de plume into the credit list of trailers for fake Doctor Who audiobooks produced by Who Back When. Have a poke around our bonus episodes to make more sense of that. That's it. Rock on and be rad and excellent to each other. Catch your earballs in our next Classic Who review, New Who review, or, still funny, Audio Who review. Ciao.
Who Back When?